try to learn from others within your domain, but at other companies.
My name is Yaniv. I'm here to study successful innovation professionals and uncover the mindset and models they use to de-risk the future. On this podcast, I invite fellow professors, practitioners, and entrepreneurs to have an honest conversation about the business of innovation. No more bullshit. We talk openly and honestly about what works and what doesn't. So come on, get your ass in that seat. School's about to start. Hey, Wout, welcome to the School of Innovation.
Welcome, welcome. Thanks for having me.
You are currently leading and growing Mural's European enterprise transformation team, right?
That's correct.
Could you give us the pitch?
Definitely. So, what Mural is, it is a visual collaboration tool to work together with your colleagues, your clients in real time. It's basically replacing your in-person workshops, like what you were doing on your flip charts or your post-it notes, but then actually like a medium in order to do this online. Many companies have been experimenting with that for the last years, but especially during COVID, as you can imagine, this became the norm for many enterprises because they couldn't fly out to meet each other. They couldn't even go to the office to meet each other for workshops, but also for general meetings. And yeah, that's where Mural came in place to help them out and be a platform in which they can visually collaborate next to their other tools like video conferencing tools which they were already using before.
Hmm. Interesting. So when I think about visual collaboration, and maybe it's just me, I think about something very tangible, very almost visceral, like something that you do um, together in a room with a board. I'm picturing a lot of post-its. How does that translate to digital? Like, what have you seen happen in those enterprises that are transitioning to digital via Mural?
Yeah, exactly. I like your visual mind of how you visualize things, and that's really what yeah, I guess what we really value with Mural, and like that's also the value that it brings to people. And it is really that. It is really very similar to what you described as sticky notes, but then digital sticky notes, as well as other elements to visualize your thoughts and your thinking. So think about different types of icons, images, drawing. There's all that types of tools in there that help you visualize your thoughts. And as you might know, visualizing your thoughts is much more effective in communicating something to others. Like you might be familiar with that from like sticky notes, drawing something on a whiteboard. You do that to come to a consensus and to come to agree on something. Because if you're describing things over text or like over voice, things get lost. People interpret things in different ways. Visual communication in that sense is much more effective. Companies.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you on like being able to visualize what two or more people are thinking about, and sometimes it's such a simple but typically overlooked concept that happens all the time in communication. And you don't know this, but I used to be an architect like many
Oh,
years ago, the building kind. And the listeners know this is a metaphor I've used a couple, or an example, not really a metaphor, an example I've used many times, where I think one of my studio instructors gave me this example where he said, if I think about a chair and you think about a chair, I can almost guarantee that we're thinking about two different chairs. So you have to draw it, you have to like show me what you mean in order for us to collaborate or design this chair together. So that's kind of the example I always use,
that's exactly it.
and I absolutely agree. Yeah, yeah. So let's break down this concept, or this role, or this position of an enterprise transformation manager, or an ETM. And I want to hear what that entails. But I kind of, I gotta say, I kind of like the name, right? I don't know who picked up the name, like enterprise transformation manager, but I like it because it hints to the value that the customer gets. Like it's in the title, right?
Yeah,
You're an enterprise and we're going to help you to transform.
exactly. And
So
I'm
that's really cool. But what happens? Like what happens in real life on the ground? What does that look like?
yeah, exactly. It's great that you like pick on like and you pull it apart like that. That's exactly the way we envisioned it. In like most companies, our role would probably just be described as a in a role that is called customer success, which is the traditional way of putting this role, and that is the role that actually comes post sale. So when a customer is a
Hmm.
customer, and you want them to be happy with your software, it's being used in many SaaS organizations. We thought there was a little bit more we can and we would wanted to add to that. That's why we chose enterprise transformation, because we're not looking for the customer to just be happy with the software, to renew next year, etc. What we actually want to accomplish is help them indeed transform their organization. And I think what we're trying to achieve there is to really become a partner, that they don't see us as just
Hmm.
like a vendor that we buy a product from, but we want to be a partner in helping them to transform. And transform can be many different things. For every client, that looks a little bit different. Some companies are on a design transformation; they're teaching their whole company about design thinking, for example. Others are on an agile transformation, digital transformation.
So it's enterprise transformation, but what is the transformation? You fill in that blank once you meet the client.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So it's really dependent on the customer. We would, of course, like have some idea already, like right from the beginning, when the customer is buying Mural memberships. Of course, we discover that with them, and we like my colleague from the sales team would have talked with them about what they're trying to achieve with buying Mural. What are their goals? What value are they looking to extract? So then we have an idea about what we're going to help them with. And in the first few weeks with them, we would yeah, of course, explore that further and set some success goals on, like, hey, what are we trying to achieve in the next months, in the next year, and how are we going to track that? So that's really the part of yeah, it is also like traditional customer success part. Of course, part of that in the beginning is also like the really the software or the tool things, as in like, hey, we need to like do a technical setup, we need to onboard people, we need to train people, etc. But once we have basically gotten those things out of the way, we've enabled people, then we're looking at like, hey, how can we further help them and enhance their transformation journey, basically.
Yeah. So you're like almost like an in-house consultant, I guess.
Yeah, I would refer to ourselves as kind of consultants, indeed. Well, I mean, which is where I come from, my background as well. I used to be a consultant at IBM, where I was like doing design thinking workshops. I was doing being a scrum master in a development team. I really stood in the shoes of what most of our customers are doing right now, and that is incredibly valuable at the moment in being able to help them, and yeah, being able to see things from their perspective, and I know where I can help them.
So we're going to get to your background in a minute. I wanna still explore a little bit more in depth, like the enterprise transformation manager's role. Like we know transformation is hard, right? Like most organizations, like people are resistant to change. What are some ways that you have found to be effective in getting organizations to change? Do you have like a few tips that you could share?
Yeah, yeah. Well, the biggest one is COVID-19.
It's like that meme, like who initiated your digital transformation, right? CEO, CTO, or COVID-19?
Yeah, exactly. Definitely, COVID
Yeah.
19 has paved the way for us, and it made things a lot easier. But joking aside, like there was a lot of companies we were working with before already. And I think, as I mentioned, most of those were on a journey of, for example, a design thinking transformation. This is something that like customers like IBM and SAP have already started like years ago, and it's an ongoing journey. I don't think it will ever be finished. But I think like key factors in there are, one is that there is a vision, and there is a vision that is like brought like on a high level, like from leadership, like the in terms of like the importance, stating that, but also repeatedly stating that, and always coming back to that. So like, hey, this is like, people pick up like, okay, this is an important thing. We need to do something with it. Providing the tools, and I don't mean like necessarily like software, of course, but the tools and the methods and the yeah, the know-how, giving the know-how for people to how to do something, or at least the start of it, and let them figure and shape things out themselves afterwards. And then of course it is just by repetition and practicing, and it is like doing these things over and over again. And with that, I mean, think about, for example, what you would have like an agile coach or a design thinking coach who they run workshops and they run more engagements with their colleagues internally, and through that they spread the word. They're like evangelizing it almost throughout the organization, and reaching more people and bringing more people that kind of like hop on the bandwagon. I think it's definitely transformation. It sounds cool, but it's definitely also something that is like it's a long effort. It's not something that you will just do like, okay, 2020 is a transformation year. No, this is definitely something like multi-year if you wanna do some meaningful transformations. And I think what is really key in there, like what we also really found in our experience, is the use of yeah, we call it champions. So the people that are really enthusiastic about this change and about the transformation, you have to use those. Like those are the ones that are gonna carry things forward. Use the power of that enthusiasm to move forward, and don't focus too much on the people who are resistant and who don't want to comply with things, because I mean, change is scary, and most people don't like change. Something that you don't want, so it's normal that people resist. So from our experience, like, don't focus too much on them. Win over the well Use the champions. They will eventually win over the rest, and that's really like, for example, with like getting people to do like visual collaboration using Mural. There's many people that I come across, or maybe came across, like in my 2 years at Mural, that were very reluctant in the beginning, and they were like, ah, yeah, we this is nice, but we just like have our in-person workshops, and I don't like the digital workshops that much. Um, I mean, like, that's fine, of course, like, that's fine. Like, everybody has their own thing. We focused our time on the people who were enthusiastic, and now, I mean, like, to the example of like COVID-19 happened, and the persons who were enthusiastic about this change and like becoming digital facilitators, virtual facilitators, yeah, they were a couple of steps ahead, right? They were the ones leading the change now, and they're teaching everybody now. It's just simple as that, and that's like, I think, like, normally how something like this happens.
Is there a way to identify these people, like these champions? What are some of the like telltales of those people?
Yeah, there is a number of ways. There are, and I found people in multiple ways. Like, for example, just looking at usage data, like who is the person that uses Mural most in your region. uh, I've reached out, like, this is like already a long time ago, to the person who was using Mural most in the Netherlands. I'm based in Amsterdam, so I was curious. Reached out to him and saying like, "Hey, congratulations, you're the top user in the Netherlands." He was like, he was amazed to hear that, super happy, and we've had a very close relationship ever since. Like, we meet up regularly, and he shares feedback, and we see how we can help each other. And that's just one way, like through social media is a big one. People who are like sharing on social media about the workshops they're doing in Mural, the things that they are doing. People that are writing us, like, there are like people who are writing us like almost on a daily basis, like into our support teams, into the chat, for example. always asking. I mean, like they're like usually also like quite demanding users. Great for us to learn from. So they're writing into like into support every day, like with feedback and things that they would like to see, or even just to have a chat. Like many of our customer support people, they have found they've built relationships with people. Like they talk about what they've done on the weekend, and it's not even support that they're talking about. They're just chatting. Like those people who are really engaged like that, they're like, yeah, you gotta nurture those and really yeah, see how you can help each other out.
What do you think are some signs that an organization needs to transform? Like COVID aside, right? Are there any signs?
Maybe a one that I would see as a big indicator is that they don't have talent retention, or like they don't have many young people in their organization. I think millennials, or however you want to call it, like younger generations, they are very, how do you say that, like strict in like where they want to work, very purpose driven, of course. And if a company is not like innovating enough or transforming enough, or is old fashioned, we just leave. Like that's it. We just go away. So I think that's a very good sign to just look at that, and actually not look at the numbers, but talking to people, talking to the younger people who are maybe like fresh out of university, full of ideas, and about how the world could work and how the company could or should work, and something that many companies can learn a lot from.
Yeah. Cool. So as I was doing research about you, I noticed that you have a master's degree in global innovation management.
Yeah, correct.
Why is global so important in the context of innovation management? Why the emphasis on global?
Yeah, it's an interesting question actually, because before I started and I had to choose between different degrees, I was actually choosing between innovation management and global innovation management. So I can tell the difference. So like the innovation management, well, that degree was in the Netherlands at a university here. The global one was a dual degree on two different universities, one in Scotland in Glasgow, one in Denmark. So the global element to that was really teaching people the know-how and the way to collaborate with global teams. Like it was like clearly visible from the first day. We were like 21 people from 18 different with 18 different nationalities, people from all over the place, which was, I mean, that was probably the best learning of that degree, was really just the cross-cultural collaboration with people from Indonesia, Nigeria, China, Brazil, like all over the place. Really, yeah, really having that cross-team collaboration, because that's like mimicking the world that most of us work in right now, right? Like any business, like you come across people from everywhere. So having those skills there were really yeah, really helpful.
Are there things that you still use from that period?
Definitely, there is. In general, the degree it was called innovation management. It was specifically for engineering graduates who wanted to go more into the business domain. So I myself had have a bachelor degree in mechanical engineering, and like everybody else was like from across chemical engineering, industrial engineering, civil, etc. So we all came from like a more technical background. So part of the things that we learned was just general business studies. It was basically like a little MBA for engineers, just learning about all the management and the finance terms, etc. So that was like laying the basis for what I know about business, essentially. What I think I learned most from that degree was all the concepts and the methodologies and the thinking that we learned about and that we read about. So I remember like clearly just reading all those books, like the lean startup method, blue ocean strategy, about design thinking, about agile, about all the things that were coming up and that were the companies were like experimenting with and implementing across those organizations. We learned about, and like how companies are implementing it, etc. And I think that has laid the basis for what I know about well, the broad term of innovation. Yeah.
Yeah, the foundation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was very much foundational, because there were so many things that you can learn about, and I guess in general, education is usually like as broad as possible, and then you
Hmm?
specialize when you get your first job.
Yeah. So as you had this sort of overview of the innovation landscape, let's say, and thinking about someone, let's say someone young who's going into a position, a new position as an innovation manager, are there any specific guidelines or advice that you could share with that person, like given your, in hindsight, given that experience?
Think the thing that I would recommend most is try to learn from others within your domain, but at other companies. I think there are so many communities at the moment, like that are around innovation. They're corporate innovators or digital innovators. I come across many of them, and I'm part of some of them, or joining conferences. And I'm always amazed about how willing people are to share what works for them and what doesn't work for them. So then you can learn from like someone who's maybe like in the same industry, he's happy to share, or from like completely different industries, like what works for them in terms of innovating, of getting ideas to innovate, how to execute on them. There is like the learnings are almost endless, and that and it's fun. Like I mean, I personally I love like engaging and networking with others. And you will see like people who are in the same domain as you are pretty much always like-minded people. Yeah, it's a fun crowd to be part of, and they're very willing to share. And it's also really appreciated if you share your learnings, even though you might be like newbie or like fresh to the domain. Your perspectives are super valuable because others are maybe like stuck in really deep in the innovation landscape, and they can't look at it with fresh eyes anymore. So yours are then super valuable.
Yeah, so that kind of leads me to the next question. And you hinted that at some of the things that you've done in the past. So during your career, you worked at DIS as an innovation management researcher, at IBM as a consultant, and at Selena as a business designer. So I'm curious to know, how are these experiences shaped the way that you approach your role today at Mural?
Yeah, that's a great question because they really combine all of them.
They complement. I feel like they complement each other.
Implement a lot. Like so, the innovation research role, that was basically where when I did my graduation thesis. That was just me sit for 6 months just reading all the innovation literature there is. And I'm sometimes amazed about how many books I read at that time, and like all the classics that I read. Like yeah, I really treasure that time. And then at IBM, I tried to implement some of those. Right, it was really about me getting my hands dirty, working as a consultant, working in various industries for various clients, really learning as much as I could. Actually, like it was amazing to see like how little I knew, but like how I could just still make like a big difference for an organization, because I could come in with an outsider's perspective with maybe like strong knowledge on a certain part of the innovation process or the thing that they're trying to do, and make a difference there. And like repeating that over time made me like much more confident in that. And yeah, until I was like yeah, working with global enterprises at IBM, helping them yeah solve big problems, which was usually related to their digital transformation, basically.
And Selena?
Yeah, and then Selena, like that was I kind of hit my millennial moment where I was like, hey, I need to quit. I need to quit this corporate. I've had enough. Time for something else. Why don't I go traveling? So I went traveling to South America, with the intention to travel all around, maybe do some volunteering. But as you said, I ended up working for a company called Selena as a business designer, where again, like Selena is a hospitality startup. I don't know if they're still a startup. They're pretty massive now. But when I joined, there were around they had like 40 different locations, and a location for Selena is a place. It's a place that brings an experience around co-working, culture, sleeping. It's a little bit like a co-working place slash hostel slash hotel is what I would how I would describe it. And I know the people at Selena wouldn't say there is much more to that, but that's like basically what it is. And there I was bringing in my experience from IBM, from working with corporates, to this Latin American startup, actually founded by Israelis. Interesting for you. So my role there was to be like a little bit of an internal consultant. We were doing projects to transform and to scale, basically. For example, in revenue management, like, hey, um, how can we scale the locations that we work with in terms of hey, the number of employees that work there, and like how do we all do all the admin in terms of reporting back to the mothership, as you can call it, as well as like very different things. Like we were doing also like new project proposals with the marketing team and with the product teams, and it was a time that was a bit like we were a bit all over the place, but we realized we could bring some value almost everywhere, in terms of or no, I should say based on our design thinking mindset. Actually, it came back to that. Like that's what I learned at IBM. My manager at Selena, he was also a designer in the industrial designer, and we both had that mindset. And using that approach, we just like did many projects in the organization, and very quickly, iterated, experimented, and brought value to the organization. So it was an incredible time. And then like after that I moved to Mural, which was a very logical step for me as well, because Selena, I forgot to mention, but like the target audience are millennials, people who like traveling. A big part of that are what you call like digital nomads, people who just travel around. They don't doesn't matter where they work. So it's all about remote collaboration. So I really got into that sphere of remote collaboration. I love doing I love that flexibility and that freedom, and that's what I wanted next. And like that really came back at Mural, because I was missing from Selena. I was missing actually like working with those like enterprises and those large scale transformations on like a so yeah, at Mural I have everything combined. I have the remote working, the flexibility, I have the big customers, and the big transformation projects again.
I love it when we come full circle, when a plant comes together.
Exactly.
So, well, our time is almost up. If our listeners want to know more about you and about Mural and maybe possibly get in touch, what is the best way to do that?
The best way, I mean, I am on Twitter and Instagram. The best way to reach out to me would be on LinkedIn. So my LinkedIn,
Okay,
happy to connect there. Write me a message when you connect, and I'm happy to have a chat and tell you more.
perfect. I'm going to put your LinkedIn information in the show notes. Well, thank you so much for being my guest today on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.